In 1998, Toys R Us was the largest toy retailer on Earth. 1,600 stores, $13 billion in annual revenue. A quarter of every toy sold in the United States passed through a Toys R Us register. The jingle had been running for 16 years. Every American child born between 1975 and 2000 knew every word. I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid. In 2018, the last Toys R Us store in America closed its doors. 33,000 employees lost their jobs. Many of them lost their severance pay too. The people who made that decision walked away with hundreds of millions of dollars. This is not a story about Amazon killing a toy store. This is a story about what private equity firms did to a company that didn't need to die. The beginning. In 1948, a man named Charles Lazarus opened a baby furniture store in Washington, D.C. He called it Children's Bargain Town. He noticed something quickly. Parents came in for a crib and left talking about toys. Toys were what kids wanted. Toys were what parents spent money on. Furniture lasted for years. Toys broke, got lost, went out of fashion, and needed to be replaced. Lazarus shifted the entire business to toys. By 1957, Children's Bargain Town had a new name: Toys R Us. The backward R was Lazarus's idea. A child's handwriting, a child's world. The giraffe mascot came a few years later. His name was Jeffrey. The store was unlike anything American retail had seen. Not a toy section inside a department store. An entire store. Nothing but toys, floor to ceiling, aisle after aisle. The selection was overwhelming in the best possible way. By 1978, Toys R Us went public on the stock market. By 1983, it had expanded internationally. By 1990, it had stores in 15 countries and was growing every year. At its peak, Toys R Us controlled more of the American toy market than any single retailer in history. Walmart sold more toys by volume, but Toys R Us owned the category. It was the destination. The place parents drove to in December. The place children pressed their faces against the window on the way to somewhere else. Charles Lazarus stepped down as chief executive in 1994. He stayed involved with the company he had spent 46 years building. He would live to see it destroyed. The deal. By the early 2000s, Toys R Us was struggling. Walmart had undercut its prices. Amazon had taken its online business. The stores felt dated. The website had failed so badly in its first Christmas, missing delivery deadlines for thousands of children, that the Federal Trade Commission fined the company for making promises it could not keep. The stock price was falling. The board was under pressure. The company needed a plan. In 2005, 3 firms came with one: Bain Capital, KKR, Vornado Realty Trust. They proposed a leveraged buyout. They would take Toys R Us private, off the stock market, restructure it, modernize it, and eventually sell it at a profit. The price was $6.6 billion. Here's what a leveraged buyout means in practice. The 3 firms did not pay $6.6 billion. They paid a fraction of that themselves. The rest, the vast majority, they borrowed. And they put that debt not on their own books. They put it on Toys R Us. The company that had been struggling with competition and an outdated website now had $5.3 billion in debt sitting on its balance sheet. The interest payments alone came to $400 million every single year. $400 million a year. Before a single store was renovated, before a single new hire was made, before a single toy was ordered. A company cannot invest in its own future when it is paying $400 million a year just to stand still. the extraction. What happened next is important to understand. Bain Capital, KKR, and Vornado did not do nothing. They ran the company. They tried things. They opened concept stores. They launched a revamped plan called True Transformation. They kept the stores open for 87 hours straight during December to maximize Christmas revenue. But they also charged Toys R Us management fees. Every year, the private equity firms billed the company they owned for the privilege of being owned by them. Between 2005 and 2017, those fees totaled more than $200 million. The money flowed out of the company into the pockets of the firms that had loaded it with debt. Meanwhile, Amazon was growing, Walmart was growing, Target was growing. Every competitor was investing in its stores, its website, its supply chain. Toys R Us could not. The money was not there. It was going to debt service and management fees. In 2017, facing a debt payment it could not make, Toys R Us filed for bankruptcy. The filing was supposed to be a restructuring, a reset, a chance to renegotiate the debt and emerge as a smaller but viable company. It did not work out that way. The end. In March 2018, Toys R Us announced it would close all of its remaining American stores. 735 locations, gone. The liquidation sales started immediately. The shelves were stripped, the signs came down. The Geoffrey the Giraffe mascot costumes were auctioned off. 33,000 employees lost their jobs. Many of them had been promised severance pay. The typical package was 1 week of pay for every year of service. An employee who had worked at Toys R Us for 20 years expected 20 weeks of pay to help them find something new. They received nothing. The bankruptcy proceedings paid the secured creditors first. The banks, the bondholders, the private equity firms recovered significant portions of their investment through various mechanisms over the years of ownership. The employees were unsecured creditors. They were last in line. When the money ran out, they got nothing. Protests broke out outside the offices of KKR and Bain Capital in New York. Former Toys R Us employees held signs outside the firms that had extracted hundreds of millions of dollars in fees while the company was dying. They were asking for the severance they had been promised. They did not get it. Charles Lazarus died on March 22, 2018. He was 94 years old. He died 1 week after Toys R Us announced it was closing every store in America. The company he had started in 1948 with a single furniture store outlived him by 7 days. The closing. There are 2 Toys R Us stores open in the United States today. One at the American Dream Mall in New Jersey, one at the Mall of America in Minnesota. Small stores, flagship locations built on nostalgia, not volume. They sell a curated selection of toys to adults who want to feel something they felt when they were 8 years old. It is not nothing. But it is not the company Charles Lazarus built. The story most people know goes like this. Amazon disrupted retail. Kids stopped playing with physical toys. The internet changed everything. Toys R Us could not adapt. It died of natural causes. That story is easier than the truth. The truth is that Toys R Us was a struggling but functional retailer in 2005. It had problems, it needed investment, it needed a better website and updated stores, and a clearer vision for competing with Walmart on price. It did not need $5.3 billion in debt dropped on its balance sheet. It did not need to spend $400 million a year on interest payments, while its competitors spent that money on growth. It did not need management fees flowing out to the firms that owned it, while the stores fell apart around the employees inside them. 33,000 people lost their jobs. Most of them lost their severance. The private equity firms walked away. That is not a story about Amazon. That is not a story about the toy market changing. That is a story about what happens when a company becomes a financial instrument instead of a place where children press their faces against the glass. Thanks for watching Buried Brands. Subscribe for a new story every 10 days. Next video coming July 11th.